every man has a motivation phase. You watch a video, you hear a sermon, you read something that hits different, and then suddenly you feel it, right? That fire, that clarity, that feeling like this time it's actually going to be different. So you make plans, you set goals, you tell yourself that you're done coasting along. And for a few days, you're on it, waking up early, working out, and things are getting done. Feeling like the man that you always said that you're going to be. And then one morning you wake up and it's just gone. The routine falls apart. Life goes back to normal. And you're just sitting there wondering like, why this keeps happening to you. Here's the truth that most men never hear. Motivation is one of the worst foundations you can build your life on. And the Bible never once tells men to rely on it. Today we're talking about why motivation always fails and what actually works instead. Because if you keep up chasing the feeling, you're willing. If you keep chasing the feeling, you will keep living in the same cycle, right? That starts and crashes for the rest of your life. Now, I have spent years in that cycle, right? Getting fired up, going hard for 2 weeks, falling off, and then feeling guilty. I watch more videos to get fired up again. I've watched so many Andrew Tate videos, right? So many fresh and fit videos. And then I just fall off again. And every time I told myself the same thing. I just need to find the right motivation, the right content, the right speech that will finally make it stick. But it never sticks. And eventually I had to ask myself, like, why? Not why I was weak, but why the approach itself kept failing. Maybe you are still in that cycle right now. So here's the first thing you need to understand. Motivation is a feeling, and feelings are unstable. They shift daily, hourly. You wake up fired up in the morning and completely flat by the afternoon, right? Or even by the next day. Now Jeremiah 17 verse 9 says that the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately sick. Who can understand it? Your feelings, your emotions, your motivation, not your reliable leader, right? They're not a reliable leader. And yet most men build an entire discipline strategy on top of that, something that's so unstable. You wait for that feeling to build up inside, right? You chase the inspiration. And this guarantees inconsistency because when your discipline depends on how you feel, it disappears the moment that the feeling goes away, right? In Proverbs 28 verse 26, it says that whoever trusts in his own heart is a fool, but he who walks in wisdom will be delivered. That is the thing. Scripture calls out the foolishness. Not stupidity, not weakness, foolishness. Because you're building something that cannot hold. And here's something that most men never realize about the motivational content that they consume, right? Motivational content, it creates excitement. And that excitement feels like progression. But it's not progression. It is a feeling of being like about to make progress. Like, oh, I'm watching this video, I'm going to make progress. No. Right? Think about watching a cinematic trailer for a game, right? The music hits, the visuals are extremely good, you're super hyped, but you've not actually gained a level, right? You've not played the game. Your character is not even there yet, right? You just watched the trailer. So watching these motivation videos is like just watching trailers. Motivation is a trailer. Discipline is actually playing the game. And most men are addicted to trailers. They watch motivational content, consume productivity podcasts, and it feels like they're doing something, but they're not. I spent years, I would say from 2020, I spent years just watching motivational content. And yes, there are good things that come from this content. There are some good snippets. There's really good advice, but at the end, you just become a consumer. You're consuming the productivity. But the purpose of the productivity videos is for you to stop watching them. You need to consume and then apply. In James 1 verse 22 it says, "But be doers of the word and not hearers only." The trailer does not level up your character. The gameplay does. Most men are watching endless trailers while their actual life stays at level 1 or doesn't even start. So here's the cycle that traps men for years. You get motivated, you push hard, but then fatigue hits, motivation fades, you fall off, and the guilt shows up. Now you need more motivation, right? So you start again. The whole process repeats itself. So the problem is not that you are weak, it's just emotions simply cannot sustain long-term effort. You cannot run on motivational fuel for days, right? But not for years. And the life that you're trying to build requires a few years of commitment, constant commitment. In 1 Corinthians 9 verse 27, it says that, "But I discipline my body and keep it under control." Paul did not say he motivates his body, he disciplines it. Not through feelings, through discipline. You feel, motivation asks how do you feel? You feel motivated? But discipline doesn't care. Do you feel bad? Go gym. Do you feel good? Go gym. The feeling doesn't matter, you just do it. That's discipline. Now Hebrew 12 verse 11 says that for the moment all discipline seems painful rather than pleasant, but later it yields peaceful fruit of righteousness. Painful now, fruitful later. It doesn't wait for a feeling, it just moves through the pain because the outcome is worth it. Now here's something that's gonna sting, right? Motivation can become a form of procrastination. One of the most sophisticated forms because it feels like productivity. You're not lazy, like I said before. You're watching videos about not being lazy. You're not undisciplined. You're consuming content about discipline. You're planning your transformation. But you're not actually doing anything, right? Just watching the content, you're not actually doing anything, right? You're feeding the feeling without actually taking action. Proverbs 13 verse 9 says, "The soul of a sluggard craves and gets nothing, while the soul of the diligent is richly supplied." You want the results. You watch the content, but you get nothing because motivation without action is just entertainment with a productivity label on it. Think about that. So search through all of Scripture and you will not find God telling men to get motivated. He commands obedience. He commands faithfulness. He commands perseverance. Galatians 6 verse 9 says, "Let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due seasons we will reap, if we do not give up." So what's missing in the scripture? Feelings. God assumes that you're going to keep going even when you're weary. He doesn't say keep going as long as you feel like it. He says do not give up. Do not give up. In Joshua 1 verse 9 it says, be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened and do not be dismayed. For the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Be strong and courageous. Not feel like it. Act, then move. The feeling will come later or not at all. It doesn't matter. You just keep working. So what actually works? It's quite simple. Structure, consistency. Systems that do not care how you feel on any given morning. Think about a long-term RPG, right? Players who finish and max out their characters, they're not the ones who grind for 10 hours or on hype, right? They go away for weeks. They're the ones steadily making progress every day. To get max level in Elden Ring, you need to grind. That consistency, it compounds, right? The burst players are still in the early mornings, early hours, months later. In Proverbs 21 verse 5, it says that the plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance, but everyone who is hasty comes only to poverty. Here is what structure looks like in practice. Motivation says, I feel like working out today. Structure says, it's 6 a.m. and that is when I work out. So motivation is optional, whereas structure is automatic. And automatic behavior doesn't need a feeling to trigger. It just does it. In Ecclesiastes 11 verse 4 says, he who observes the wind will not sow. He who regards the clouds will not reap. The man who waits for the perfect motivation never acts. The man with structure does not wait. The system carries him forward whether he feels like it or not. And here's what God actually rewards that most men are overlooking. Matthew 25 verse 21 says, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over little, I will set you over much. Faithful, not motivated, not intense, but faithful. Showing up when you don't feel like it. Obeying when it's boring and nobody's watching and nothing feels rewarding. 1 Corinthians 4 verse 2 says, it is required of the stewards that they be found faithful. Faithful, not motivated, because motivation is unreliable, but faithfulness is something you can actually build your life on. Motivation will show up sometimes, after a good sermon, after a breakthrough, and when it does, use that motivation. But do not build your life on it, because it will always leave. Discipline has to live where motivation, it just visits. Structure has to be the foundation, because strong men are not built by emotional spikes. They're built by daily faithfulness in small things that nobody else sees. Colossians 3 verse 23 says, whatever you do, work heartily, as for the Lord and not for men. For the Lord, not for feelings, not for applause. And when that is your reason, discipline stops depending on a feeling, because obedience to God does not wait for you to feel like it. It just moves. So stop asking, how do I stay motivated? Start asking, how do I become consistent? Because motivation starts the journey, consistency finishes it. If this message resonated with you, please share it with a man stuck in that cycle right now. And if you're serious about building real consistency, not just watching videos about it, Subscribe because that's exactly what this channel is for. Drop a comment and be honest. How long have you been in the motivation cycle? I want to hear where you're at because I think that more of us are stuck in it than what we can admit, right? And I'll see you guys in the next one.